I'm Mrs. Fellew, and I work with Knox County Schools Math Department. I have the opportunity to work in many math classrooms across the county with many different teachers and many different students. But now that things have changed and we're at home, the math department wanted to provide you with some things to practice and review, maybe some things that you've done in your classrooms with your teachers this year. We have created some extra learning packets. These are going to be distributed at the food distribution sites. If you are not able to pick one up at the food distribution site, you can access them online at Knox County Schools website. So, today we're going to be looking at a third grade task that involves solving real world problems using multiplication and division. So today, we're going to review some key skills needed to complete a math task. We're going to analyze another student's solution to this task. And we're going to try another approach to see if we can come up with another solution. We'll complete one on our own using our key skills in similar ways. And then we're going to end with a multiplication challenge that you can do at home. Okay, so before we get started, let's take a look at this picture. And I want you to take some private think time. And I want you to think about how many different ways you could describe this picture. I'll give you just a few seconds. So maybe at this point, you've looked at this picture and you've looked at these squares, and maybe you have decided that there are 32 squares, okay? Could you think of another way to describe it without maybe using the number 32? As you've studied this picture, you may have been able to see that maybe there are 4 groups of 8, thinking about these rows here. And then maybe 8 groups of 4, thinking about the columns. And maybe you've thought about 4 times 8, because there's 4 rows of 8, or 8 times 4. You can also look at this picture and think about repeated addition, okay? We have 4 plus 4 plus 4 and so forth, okay? Or you could think about it as terms of repeated addition with the number 8. So thinking about 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8. Some may have decided that it was 2 times 16, thinking about these 2 rows equal 16 and 2 times 16. There are several different ways to look at this picture and describe it. And we're going to be using some of these key skills today as we complete our math task. So one of the first key skills that we need to review and go over is understanding multiplication. So when you multiply, you work with equal groups. Okay, so looking at this picture below, we can see that there are groups of shells are equal. Okay, so when you have equal groups, you can multiply to find the total. Okay, groups are called equal groups when they all have the same number of objects. So in this particular one, we have 3 groups and each group has an equal number of 2 shells. So 3 groups of 2 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay. Another key skill that we need to review before doing our math task is understanding arrays. We've already talked a little bit about arrays at the beginning, okay? But looking at this particular array, okay, we can see that this is a set of objects grouped in equal rows and equal columns. Okay, you can see the columns go up and down and the rows go side to side. So in this particular array, we have 3 rows of 5 or 3 groups of 5. And we know that 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, we could count these stars individually, but it's a lot quicker to think about it in terms of multiplication. So let's try one. There are 8 rows of tables in the cafeteria, and each row has 5 tables. what would an array look like to help determine how many tables are in the cafeteria? Okay, so if we have 8 rows and each row has 5 tables, I'm going to start off with drawing one row of 5 and then continue until I have 8 rows. Okay, and this should have equal rows and equal columns if it's considered an array. Okay, so this would be our array, and you can see here we have 5 in each row, and then we have 8 rows total, which gives us a total of 40 seats. Okay, so other key skills to think about is knowing those multiplication facts. And so some tools that we can use to help us with multiplication are arrays, which we've talked about. You can think about fact families. Think about a multiplication chart, which you've probably used in your classroom before. And we also have skip counting on a number line. So think about what works best for you for some of those facts that are a little challenging. And then think about the tools that might be best to use for that. Okay, so for our task today, and which you should have in your extra learning packet, this should be your first page, it's called the seat setup problem. So Brandy is planning how to set up seats for a play. Okay, so these are her notes right here. You can see there's a stage and there's an aisle, and then she has section 1 and she has section 2. Okay, so for both of these sections, she's going to be using 80 to 100 seats, so total. She's going to be making 2 seating sections. So you can see again, this is section 1 and section 2. The number of seats in each section can be the same or it can be different. And she knows she needs to use equal rows of seats in each section. So she's going to be making an array here, an array here. Section 1 and section 2. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be helping Brandy set up these chairs. We're going to be deciding the number of chairs to use. We're going to be telling how many seats to put in each section, and we're going to be telling the number of rows and the number of seats in each row. So we're going to be creating arrays, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at Brandy's solution and how she solved this, okay? So Brandy knew that she needed a total number of 80 to 100 seats, okay? So when she thought about the number 80, she kind of broke it apart and she saw 40 plus 40 equals 80, and then she took 100 and kind of broke it apart evenly and saw 50 plus 50. Okay, so she knew those numbers were going to have to be around that range. She knew she was going to have at least 40 or 50 in those sections. Okay, she knew that if she used 40, she could use more than 40, but it had to be less than 50. Okay, for the total count to be correct. She also thought about some facts that she knew that would be in that range, that 40 to 50 range. She knew she could say 4 times 10 equals 40, 6 times 7 equals 42, and 5 times 9 equals 45. So she knew she had those kind of ranges of numbers that she could use. She knew that if she added up 42 and 45, it would give her 87. And again, 87 was in between that 80 to 100 range. And so what she chose to do in section 1, she chose to have 42 seats, which is an array of 6 rows and 7 seats. And then in section 2, she chose to have 45 seats, 5 rows of 9. Okay, so that was Brandy's solution. Okay, and we've kind of gone over Brandy's solution. We've talked about Brandy's solution. So now it's your turn to complete the setup seat problem. See if you can solve it in a different way. Okay, remember they could be equal numbers of seats in each section, or they could be different, and it still needs to be between that 80 and 100 range. So what I'm going to leave with you today is I'm going to leave with you a chance to create your own seat situation for this play. And then as you're working this, I want you to think, are there only 2 solutions, Brandy's solution and your solution? Or are there multiple solutions to this problem? Okay. So after you've finished your solution, then you can begin to work on the robot prop problem. Okay. And so this is it's similar. We're still using those arrays to kind of figure this out. So Brandy's play is about space creatures. She wants to make a space robot prop. She has 50 pie plates. She will use the pie plates to make the arms and the legs for the robot. So take a quick close look at the robot prop plan. So at this time we're using 50 plates, or up to 50 plates. We're using the same number of plates for each arm. And we're using the same number of plates for each leg. So I'm thinking about arrays here. We have equal groups of rows and columns. Okay. Now, the number of plates used for the arms and the legs are different. We're going to use more plates for the legs than we are the arms. So that's something to kind of think about as you begin to create your arrays for this robot. Okay, so what I'm going to leave you with today is a challenge, okay? So as we've been talking about arrays, you're going to be solving your own problem with the stage setup. You're going to be solving a problem about a robot. And I'm going to leave you with just a fun challenge here because it's about cookies. So Daniel's baking cookies. He places cookies in an array on a cookie sheet. There are a total of 84 cookies. How many cookies are in each row and how many cookies are in each column on the cookie sheet? And I want you to think about, is there only one correct answer? Okay. So I want to thank you guys today for tuning in. Good luck with your math task and your challenges, and I will see you next week with another task and challenge. Thank you so much.